Welcome to Discourse Politics. Today we are going to talk about why some Democrats are a little afraid of some of these early vote numbers. Even though they look good nationally, they don't necessarily look good in the swing states. And we will be using a model that I created that answers three questions. The three questions are, how many votes is Joe Biden ahead currently? How many votes are left outstanding? And how many people does Donald Trump need on election day? What numbers does he need to actually overcome Joe Biden? So let's get into it. If you want to follow along, you can actually download this spreadsheet in the link in the description below. It is a free folder that is open to the public. It is a Google Drive folder, free, and there's more stuff in there that you might want to use. It's all free, all public, there for you to use. For now, let's jump into how does Donald Trump look in the 6 swing states. This will be in alphabetical order, so starting with Arizona, let's see how Donald Trump looks. In Arizona, in order to flip it to red, right now he's behind by 107,000 votes, 784 projected, which means that there's still about 1.6 million votes we're expecting in Arizona, and that means he's going to have to turn out 854,000 votes in order to win the election. So he's behind. He's going to have to turn out 854,000 people in the state of Arizona in order to overcome his deficit. Now, let's take a look at Florida. In order to flip Florida red, currently Donald Trump is behind by 427,282 votes. That is only about 35% of the projected vote that's going to come in for this election because there's still 6.5 million outstanding votes projected. Donald Trump would need to carry between now and election day, or if election day were tomorrow, he would need to carry 3.48 million votes, which would be a turnout on the day of election of getting about 53.3% of the vote that turns out on election day. In the state of Michigan, in order to turn the state of Michigan red, he needs to pick up about 1.8 million votes. So right now he's behind 233,000 votes. There is still about 3.3 million votes outstanding, and he needs 1.8 million to carry him over the finish line. Now, if the election were held tomorrow, he would need to get about 53.5% of the vote that's going to turn out. Before we get to North Carolina, let me fix this. Minnesota should be blue. We're assuming it's going to go Biden. So North Carolina, currently Joe Biden is ahead about 290,000 votes in North Carolina. There are still about 2.7 million outstanding votes, and that means that Trump needs about 1.5 million votes on election day to turn out. On to Pennsylvania. In order to flip Pennsylvania red, Donald Trump is going to have to overcome a 500,000 vote deficit at this point. But luckily, only 17% of the vote is in, so there's still about 82% of the vote that's projected to be out. So between now and election day, Donald Trump's going to need to get about 2.99 million votes in order to win the state of Pennsylvania, which means from now until election day, his turnout has to be 54.5% to 45.5% between now and election day to overcome that deficit. And finally, Wisconsin. To turn Wisconsin red and have the exact same map we had in 2016, Donald Trump is behind 165,737 votes. There is a projected 2.3 million votes that are still outstanding, and he would need 1.24 million of those votes to come out between now and election day, which is 53.6% to 46.4%. Now that we've gone through the states, I want to sort of show you why some Democrats are actually nervous about the early vote. And here's why. So let me change the EV factor to 2 and get it to where, for example, Michigan, let's say 70% of the vote. So now we'll just take the state of Michigan just as an example. Let's say 70% of the vote is in, and tomorrow is election day. There are expected to be 1.55 million or 1,550,915 votes that are outstanding. In order for Donald Trump to win, he would need 1,008,528 to vote for him. That means he has to win 2 out of every 3 votes have to go for Donald Trump on election day. That seems like it's insurmountable until you actually look at who plans on voting on election day. So if we go to Real Clear Politics, and we go to Economist YouGov. So this is the Economist YouGov, the most recent one that ended on the 20th, vote method. So what we can see here is that in person on election day is going to be about 27% of the vote. Of that 27%, 45% of Donald Trump's base has said they're going to come out on Election Day. Only 15% of Biden supporters have said they're going to come out, which means the margin between Trump supporters and Biden supporters on Election Day is supposed to be 3-1 on Election Day. I don't know if that's going to happen in swing states or if that's mostly like the Midwest, because the Midwest, we tend to vote on the day of election. We don't do mail-in. We don't do all that other jazz. We just show up on Election Day. And if that happens, it's mostly just Midwest rural support that's coming out on Election Day. That's not going to help in swing states per se. So in swing states, it's important to know that this might be different. But if this is true in swing states, if there's going to be an actual 3-1 margin, then in reality, these are not good numbers. These are absolutely not good numbers for Joe Biden. Just look at him. The EV factor, assuming there's 85% of the vote, 75-25, okay? If this margin carries forward, which it shouldn't, by the way, because Biden supporters were all gung-ho to vote early and to vote as quickly as they could, and they did their mail-in ballots early, you should see less and less Biden supporters and more Trump supporters as we get closer to Election Day, in theory. Everything's a theory. But look at this. If 84% of the vote is in, and the margin that has continued in Arizona continues, Trump has to win 3 out of 4 votes, which is exactly what supposedly his base is going to do on Election Day. The irony is we're relying on a poll, which I think a lot of the polls are flawed, but nonetheless, we have to start somewhere and make some sort of assumptions. But if it really is a 3-for-4 split, or Biden is only going to get 1 out of 4 votes on Election Day, these numbers don't look good all the way across the board. Because Arizona, Donald Trump only needs to win, or has to win 3 out of 4 votes, okay? But that's what he's projected to do. In Florida, he only needs to win 2 out of 3 votes, which is a lot better. And he's supposed to get 75% of the vote on Election Day. Michigan, again, he's supposed to get 75% of the vote on Election Day. So even if these numbers carry through all the way to Election Day, the early votes, the mail-in votes, and 70% of the vote is in, Donald Trump only needs to get 65% on Election Day, but he's supposed to get 75%. Okay, so North Carolina, we'll get to this in a second. I'm going to skip it and I'll come back and explain all this. Pennsylvania, he needs, once again, just a 2-1 margin turnout, but he's supposed to get 75% of the vote on Election Day. Wisconsin, supposed to get 75% of the vote on Election Day, and he only needs 61%. This is only assuming 35% of the votes in, 56% of the votes in. So these numbers don't look terrible for Donald Trump, even though he's behind. He's no mistake. He is absolutely behind right now. But if really seriously 40% of his base is expecting to vote on Election Day, but only 15% of Joe Biden's base, so even Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, they're not looking terrible for Donald Trump. 45% of his base is voting on Election Day. And if I said 40 earlier, I meant 45. 45% voting on Election Day, and only 15% of Joe Biden's base is voting on Election Day. That's 3 out of 4, 75%. And he doesn't need 75%. Now, what's happening in North Carolina is there's been a lot of early vote. So right now there's been, if we do 2x, so let's go ahead and change that to like 1.5. So that makes it, North Carolina, that makes it 70%. So if this trend continues, again, North Carolina, if 70% of the vote is in before Election Day, he only needs 1 million votes, which sounds like a lot, but 1.5 million are coming out. And supposedly he's going to get 3 out of 4. He's going to get 75% on Election Day. I thought it was an interesting way to look at the election and see different ways to look at the numbers. You can, as a reminder, you can download this in the description below. It's a public folder. It's free. Don't worry about it. I think more information is better than less. And all you have to do is fill in this information here. Fill in the yellow spots from targetsmart.com, and then play with this if you want for affiliated voters. Change it to 50-50 of the unaffiliated voters. You could change the increase. You could increase the turnout. Ironically, if you increase the turnout, the easier it looks for Donald Trump. But that's counterintuitive to what most people think, that the higher the turnout, the less likely it is Donald Trump's going to win. It really depends on which demographics turn out, but that's neither here nor there. Just something to think about. So, for example, if I made this increased turnout 20%, if I just did 20 enter, it makes these numbers easier for Donald Trump over here. However, that's counterintuitive. The idea would be that the more voters that come out, most of the time, first-time voters are not going to vote Republican. It's just unfortunately the nature of the beast, with the exception of 2016. So I don't know. Again, I don't know. Election 2016 was crazy. We have no idea how this is going to turn out. So if you want the model, it is in the description. Link in the description. Please like and subscribe for more ways to look at election numbers. If you want to download a copy for yourself and you want to update it yourself so you know how many votes Donald Trump needs on election day, feel free to do it. I will be updating these regularly. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.